All right, today, what's going on, everybody? We're gonna have a little talk. Figured it'd be nice to talk a little bit about what happens on the stream and also what happens with making a sound on the synths that I use. All right, so the idea is like we work on sounds all the time, right? And synthesizers have signal paths. So number one, I hope everybody's having a good evening. Welcome. YouTube, hello. And we're thinking about signal path. Well, what does signal path mean? Well, anytime I make a sound on a synthesizer, or anytime I make a sound for you guys to hang out and watch, it's pretty straightforward. It's always the same. And I'm going to clear the track sound. So basically, clear track sound, yep. And basically, every single time that I go to make a sound, there are a couple factors at play. There is an audio path, which is like the audio, how's it working, right? And when I say audio path, that's exactly what I mean. It's how is the audio being generated? Now, in Digitone world, and that's the synth I have back here, right? And that's a typical synth that has 8 voices. Depends on how many fingers I'm pushing at the same time. And VCO, or voltage controlled oscillator, is the first stage. And in the synth, they call it synth 1. And there's 2 synth pages, because one is the algorithm you're using, which in turn, there's a square. That's their triangle. It's kind of like a weird sine. I don't know what to call that, but that's their original tone. It has a little bit of flavor, right? So something with no harmonic, a lot of harmonic, even harmonics are odd, right? And that's me switching between the waveform. So in the Digitakt waveform, or Digitone, the waveforms, there are a few that you can blend between, right? And then when I hold more fingers down, that's 3 voices. That's 4 voices, right? And I don't have a choice of how to mix those. The synth mixes itself. So the volume of those 4 voices I cannot control, right? And I can control how they're routed, but I can't control their volume independently on that synth, right? So I go from a voice, a voltage-controlled oscillator, and then I go to a filter. So filter, and I'll go to a square wave, and I'll make it, And I'm going to use a 4-pole filter, because 4-pole filter is usually called 24 dB, and that allows that resonance to sound more pronounced. So a filter is a 1-band equalizer. And I could have wrote that down here. I could have wrote filter equals EQ. And usually you see high pass, you see notch pass, you see band pass, and you see the most common is low pass. And those are all our filter types. So a filter will take away harmonic from a voice, from the oscillator, right? And I know that's annoying, but I'm making a point. Okay, so what I want to do next is I want to modulate the filter with an LFO. So I want to make something move, quote unquote, And when I want to make a move, I go to my LFO, I pick a destination, which is filter frequency, the frequency of our filter, yes. And when I engage that waveform, and I got speed, and if I add a little bit of reverb to that, our magic sound now becomes a really bad sound, but I got a VCO into a filter and I'm modulating the filter with an LFO. So that patch was really, really simple. That's an example of what we do in synthesizers. Right now there's an amplifier as well. The amp is dictating the volume of the sound, like how loud. And I also have effects in my amplifier in this machine. So I can give it a little bit of overdrive, right? I can give it chorus, like a Juno 106. I can give it delay. I can give it reverb. And remember, I said this is all part of the amplifier in the Digitone. So again, I'm walking you through the synth workflow of the Digitone. And this is just one example, but the fun fact is every single synthesizer you will ever encounter is designed the exact same way, right? So no matter if it's on a plugin, if it's in Ableton, if it's in the TD3, this is another great example of workflow on a synthesizer. I'm almost done here. So just wrapping up the Digitone. We'll finish talking, and then we're going to talk about what the 303 does as well. So in this workflow, the voice, again, in the Digitone, oscillator. I got a wave folder. And it's also FM, which means I have ways of routing kind of changes the way they distort together. And that's octave on like the oscillator. That's me pushing the octaves up and down. So like the first octave, the second octave, or you can do. And that's just pitching up and down. So the keyboard in this instance is on the front face, and that's a keyboard. That keyboard is going to the pitch of the oscillator, and it's also going to the amp. So the envelope generator, so I can make real staccato sound. Now this is the ADSR we're playing with, is how much decay, sustain, and release. How much time, some decay, and then here's some release. See how the sound takes time to fall down, right? Let's give it a lot of release. And release is how much time it takes for the sound to finish after I lift my finger from that key press. And that's in the Digitone, how that works out. So our voltage path is the keyboard. The when is the gate, and that triggers an envelope generator. And then the pitch from the keyboard is how it knows what we're doing. It's how are we doing pitch. So super simple. We're explaining the signal path on a Digitone. And again, I said it's VCO to VCF to VCA, and that's our audio path. And usually there's some sort of audio mixer where everything mixes together, either where all the oscillators mix or on the output. And the voltage path is real simple. It's just a keyboard. and that spits pitch to the oscillator, and it also sends the gate to the envelope generator, which controls how long we hear the sound in time. So right now we've got a pretty nice little patch. There's not much filtering, so we're hearing all the harmonic from the oscillator because I got the filter all the way open because I want to hear the squares. Right? Okay, so that was a quick run through. Now let's talk about another synth, and it's called the 303. And it's originally made by Roland, so if you want to look up the history of it, we're going to say all right. And this is the signal path of the synthesizer. Like, how does it make sound? So if I went to, like, the pitch and started actually playing around, sorry, let's see. So I'm going to change the sync to internal sync, if I can get it to do it. Okay. And we'll talk about making, the signal path on a 303, and this is called a TD3, is my clone, and that's by Behringer, the company everybody wants to hate. I mean, it's cheap. It's the only reason I like using it. And I want the sound of the 303. So the sound of the 303 works as follows. There is basically a VCO, and there is saw, or there is square. You get two choices. And then you have a filter, and then you have an amplifier. So again, same path. It's monophonic, so it's one voice only. There's that. And then there is a predetermined envelope on the sound itself, and then there's actually a second envelope generator. It's like a decay generator, we're going to call it, because that's all it has is decay. And that's strictly to the filter. Okay? And remember, you have frequency control, and resonance is called Q normally. That is like the actual that sound right there. There's no resonance. And there's a lot of resonance, right? And then I can turn cutoff and resonance, or I can have an envelope and it has that kind of sound. It makes this rubbery sound. And the key to that is the way that you control how much decay, how much, and for how long. Those are the two controls you get out of this envelope. So that when a sound is playing, and I'm going to try to... And let's say I clear this. I'm going to make a sequence real quick. So on this sequencer, you say time, and you tell it how many steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? And then you tell it what pitches you want. So I'm going to pick A minor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, right? And now I'm going to walk through those and tell them what octave and if they're going to have accent and slide. And that's what you do on these last ones. All right. So this is what I just programmed, right? And we're going to talk about it. We're on a saw wave right now. So that's the waveform you're hearing is saw. There is no resonance and there is no cutoff. But as I So I soften it like that, right? And actually, we're going to run it with the drum machine. So let's see. So there we go, right? And I like this example like this. So now if I start giving it resonance, right? And that's short decay. If we had a longer decay, it's kind of my favorite sound of the 303, right? And that's how you get the, I don't know what the word here is, but the classic house sound, right? And that's it. The signal path is that simple. It's an oscillator to a filter to an amp. The thing I left out is there's a little sequencer attached to it. It's part of the box. I'm going to say sequencer. All right, and what it does is it sends out pitch, it sends out gate, and it sends out accent, right? And I believe the pitch, of course, goes to the oscillator to control it. So that's our voltage path. The gate goes to the envelope generator and to the second envelope that's controlling our amp here. So one to the filter, one to this guy, the amplifier, which has its own little AR built in. And that's just attack release, and that's what this is, or attack decay, right? And the accent, I believe, pings the amplifier. So not the envelope in the amp, but just the amp itself. It tells the amp, hey, push the volume a little bit more based on how much accent you want to give it on this knob. That's accent, right? So that's the patch. It's it. It's that simple. Now, every single synth that you encounter is going to be just like this. All right? And it's not a joke. So now let's say we pick another synth, and I'm going to say the Korg Monopoly, because that's the one I also use, so Monopoly. And it was originally by Korg. And we're going to talk about the signal flow. Now, this guy has 4 VCOs. So it literally has a stack, and there's 4 VCO, voltage-controlled oscillators. And they can make triangle, they can make sawtooth, they can make square, and they can make PWM, which is pulse width modulated square. And they all can do that. So I'm just going to do, just for redundancy, PWM. And those are the choices. You have little switches. You also have what octave they're at. So they can be at different octaves. And the bottom ones can actually be at different tunings. So meaning the bottom 3, they can all be in different, you can tune them away from each other. All right? So this is the Monopoly. There's 4 oscillators, 4 VCOs, and they go into a mixer. So it's like mixer. And you have volume control of each one. That's what a mixer does. And then that mixer goes to a filter. And then that goes to an amplifier. And there are 2 envelopes. All right. So A, D, S, R. And they go to 2 locations. So this is, again, very classic. One of them goes to the filter. One of them goes to the amplifier. All right. And there's also a noise generator. And there's a 5th volume knob for noise. Right? There's a keyboard. And that's how we control everything. And that keyboard, it goes to the pitch of all 4 oscillators. 2, 3, 4. And then the gate goes to both envelope generators, and that's called the gate signal. and it tells them when to fire. When I hit my finger on the keyboard, the gate tells the envelopes what to do there, and when I pick the pitch of the key, it tells the oscillators what pitch to play. And that's pretty much it. Now, I think they call this thing, is it paraphonic? Because the idea is, and I could be wrong, but when you touch the keyboard, no matter what voice it's selecting, it always re-triggers the envelope and the amp. You don't have them separated where in bigger polysynths you might have a VCA and a filter for every single voice. The monopoly, that is not the case. So that's again why I picked those 3 synths to talk about. The Digitone was the early one. I talked about the 303, and now I'm talking about the Korg monopoly, right? And this is signal path. Now, when we talk about this, it's just like you're sitting at a modular, and these are separate little modules, and that they plug in, and this is how they make a sound, right? So the science of making a sound is always the same. And to prove this, I'm going to pick one last idea, and it's the drum machines that we use nowadays. All right, so that means, yes, this RD8 or the 808 is a drum machine that has an oscillator, and that oscillator goes to a filter, and they call it tone. And then, of course, there's an amp, and there is also a decay envelope. So we'll say decay. There's not an attack control, so this is envelope. And this is for each sound, right? And that's controlling this guy. And they all go to a really big mixer, and that mixer goes out to what we hear. But there's like a VCO that makes the kick, and that's like a sine wave, let's call it, right? I'm not sure. And then the tone knob is basically going to say, does it have the beater head or not? You know, and that's the only choice you get. And the amp has a decay control, and that's how long the sound persists in time. So now that's the kick, right? Now the snare drum might be like a noise generator and a VCO pre-mixed to combine to make the snare snap sound. So that's our snare, and that'll go into a tone filter, and that'll go into an amp. And I know this is redundant, but guess what? It's always the same. And there's a decay generator, you know, that controls that amp again. And basically the 808 has that same circuit 12 times, and that's how we make a drum machine. You know, when I'm on a drum machine, you know, and we're making a sound, tone is the filter, and then decay, of course, there's snappy, like how snappy, that's the mix of the oscillator versus the noise generator. It's that simple, right? So everything we do in a synth is the same workflow. They might name it a couple different things, but that is the same exact thing. You know, there is nothing different to the drum machine sounds than like a synthesizer, right? It's the same workflow. So let's go back, and I'm going to just go back to that original page so we can cover it one more time together. And what we looked at was every single synthesizer has this same workflow. It has an oscillator, and that's the source where the sound comes from. Sometimes there's a mixer, but generally after the oscillator comes a filter. And from that filter, we have an amplifier. And then that'll go to some output section, like a mixer or somewhere you're plugging it into. There's a keyboard, and that keyboard sends pitch. Where am I? And a gate. When do you strike down? Now, right? And that triggers the ADSR. In the example I showed you with this guy, we can make sounds that are very staccato or short. Staccato versus legato. Okay, more of like the pad sound instead of like a Wurlitzer. or clavinet. Like a clavinet has like a shorter envelope generator, right? So the ADSR is what dictates, am I hearing a string? Now it sounds like an accordion. I mean, so depending on what you do with your envelope generator will really dictate what happens to the ear and what the human thinks they're listening to. Because like a guitar string has like a way shorter sound, and like another type of instruments have way longer sounds. That is inside your envelope generator. We also talked about an LFO because I just modulated the filter. And I just picked the easiest thing, is plugging this to the filter. And that's how you get like your rotary speaker or your Leslie sound, you know what I'm saying? So we can fool people to think that we have a Leslie when I'm just playing a digital FM synth, right? That is how everything gets controlled. So basically, the whole synthesizer patch that we've worked on tonight is just that simple oscillator to filter to amplifier. Again, I tried to make this pretty easy and just talking about signal workflow. And again, this year I wanted to kind of step into teaching a little bit more and having like a performance part of the day and then a teaching part of the day. And today I wanted to talk about signal workflow inside a synthesizer. So I just wanted to make this easy. I did get a new light inside of the studio, so hopefully everybody can see everything a little bit better too. That was like really important that I got the lighting down and a little less shadows. And again, I wanted to talk more clearly about synthesizers and workflow and things like that. That's just the first part of the education of synthesizers. We covered the Digitone, we covered the TD3, we covered the Korg, Monopoly, and I briefly covered drum synthesizer workflow. But hopefully that's just a quick glimpse. Later we'll talk more in depth about how we can control these sounds to greater means. But for right now, I just wanted to talk about the difference between the audio workflow and the voltage workflow. And that was pretty much what I wanted to kind of dig into. So you have this video to kind of cover. I gave some buzzwords. They are all written out. And I have it all kind of mapped out clearly. So if you want to take a screenshot or you want to like write this down and look at this piece of paper and use this as your kind of go-to when you're making synth patches, this can help you with Eurorack. This can help you with a Moog. This can help you with the Digitakt or the Digitone. This signal workflow applies to pretty much every synth on the market, the microKORG. And if you really study this and kind of dig into it, it will give you this huge breadth of knowledge into what like every synthesizer does. Alrighty, everybody. Hey, have a good night. It's Friday. It's January 2nd, 2026. And yeah, this is just Joseph hanging out on YouTube talking about signal workflow. So enjoy the night and stay warm because it's kind of cold out here where I'm at. All right, take care.